then you'll find rest unto your soul. For my yoke is easy and my burden is
light.
But he says, I am meek.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can go back to Matthew. He says, the meek shall inherit
Inherit
Third.
right? But he's saying, so now if the meek inherit the earth, then he says, I am
meek.
He says, I'm inheriting
Yeah.
the earth,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I own
Right.
the people,
Yeah.
right? Like I own the personality, the being.
Mm.
But now I am meek
Mm-hmm.
and lowly in heart. I look at the word meek, man, and I don't know many meek people.
Mm-hmm.
I even thought I was meek.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I really read it,
Mm-hmm.
I was further away from that than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, you know,
It gets deep.
I wanna read it and look at it because let's get to it. So I hit the word. I got a Strong's dictionary and it gives a definition of meek in the Greek. And of course, the first thing it says gentle, mild, meek. Okay, but what does that mean, right?
Right.
So I'm gonna read it off. It says a mildness of disposition, gentleness of spirit, meekness. Meekness towards God is that disposition of spirit which we accept His dealings with us as good. All right,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore without disputing or resisting. In the Old Testament, the meek are those who wholly rely on God rather than their own strength to defend themselves against injustice. So they totally rely on God. So you don't take up for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that ain't none of us.
Mm-hmm.
Like that ain't none of us, right? It's great. All right. Well, I mean,
Yeah, I got
overall, because
Yeah.
somebody come in with their foolishness.
Yeah.
I'm
Blah, blah.
gonna get it up there, right? So I'm working on that one, Jesus. Right? And then it says, hold on, let me get back to it. Then it says, thus meekness towards evil people means knowing God. Watch this. And this is tough. It's permitting the injuries they inflict,
Permitting.
and that He is using them to purify His elect, and that He will deliver His elect in His time. So
that issue.
so these things that attack us.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of us having to defend ourselves, meekness says, let it take its course.
Yeah, it's purifying me. It's changing me.
Now we all said, hell nah, Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, that ain't what you mean, because the kingdom of heaven suffer violent take it by force.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you read that in context, he said, up until now, until the days of John the Baptist, up until now, the kingdom of heaven suffer violent take it by force. But then he's saying there's a new way of doing things.
Yeah.
We're not fighting like everybody else anymore, right? And he says to purify His elect, that He will deliver His elect in time. Gentleness or meekness, watch this, is the opposite of self-assertiveness and self-interest. That's everybody that's trying to date.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody that's trying to get a career. Everybody that's trying. That's all of them, Jay. Like, and that's why it was hard. It's really hard. It's really hard to be Jesus or to really take what He's saying if you understood the words. Now, because we have a certain, only meek. A lot of people know right now is Meek Mill, so they don't. Nobody knows what meek is, right? The only meek y'all know, right? So.
Hold on, wait a minute.
Right. Hold on, wait a minute.
Was that what y'all was thinking?
No, you better believe somebody was thinking that.
Oh, bro.
And so,
It's hilarious.
but you have your own definition.
Jesus is Meek Mill?
Jesus is Meek Mill. Right. There's somebody saying it. But now that line that says it's the opposite of self-assertiveness and self-interest.
Opposite.
We can quiet any room in the world with that one, right? And then it says it stems from trusting God's goodness and control over the situation. The gentle person is, you ready for this? Y'all ready? Y'all ready?
Mm-hmm.
The gentle person is not occupied with self at all.
Yeah.
Then it goes on to explain, this is a work of the Holy Spirit, not of the human will.
Yeah.
You get it?
Yeah.
And it puts a light on
What?
when he says, love your enemies.
Yeah, love you and pray for those that pray for you, right?
Yeah, love them, because even when they're doing things against you or attacking you.
Identify with them.
Yes.
Right? Who? Identify. You ever had somebody attack you And then if you would take the time to love them, then you can identify why they're doing what they're doing. And thus, what comes after, sometimes it's sympathy and empathy, but what the amazing that comes after is compassion. You get it?
That's how he was moved.
Right. That's how he's moved with compassion. But we never really get there because it starts with the meekness.
Yeah.
But you can't be meek on your own.
Right.
So you can't be like, today I'm going to be meek. Like, no, it doesn't work that way.
Because that right there is still self-assertive.
It's still self-assertive, right? You still self-assert yourself to be meek, which is canceling out the whole process. You have to allow meekness to come out of you and be who you are. And this is by the Holy Spirit, which is the Holy Spirit within you. The Holy Spirit is who you are. You're one with God.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's really a direct and main submission of your mind and your mindset and your thought process about who you are. This is the only way to be meek. Because everything else is self-assertive. Everything else is self-interest. Everything is occupied with self. Even fear is occupied with self.
Yes.
So meek, you don't even realize that when he said he's meek and he said that's like you should learn to be meek, you don't even realize that he's freeing you from everything.
Yeah.
He's freeing from all your fears, your worries, your stresses, your ego, your pride. He's freeing you from everything. He's freeing you from all limitations. Listen, meekness is the freedom from all limitations.
Yeah.
Because everything outside of meekness makes you subject to all the faculties. You're subject to everything else. But when you're meek and lowly in heart, your dependence is no longer on you or what you're good at or what you can do. Even though you may know that you're good at some things, I'm not saying be retarded like you just don't know what's going on or you just out of your head. But I'm saying who you are is submitted to God so much that meekness is who you are because it's who He is.
Yep.
And to me, you said something like the gentle person when you was reading that definition isn't trying to control the situation.
Nope, they're not trying to control the situation.
Freedom of, not having any more limitations, to me, that goes hand in hand.
It stems from a trust in God's goodness and control over the situation. Now I can speak for myself. You can speak for yourselves too. That I've been I won't say I've been working on it because like I'm self-asserting, right? But like I've been working on submitting myself so that I can be more meek. And I noticed that when that characteristic comes more, there's a freedom and a lightness and an empowerment that comes along with it.
Yeah.
I sang at a event yesterday, and I'll be honest, like I really been focusing on that meek and lowly in heart, and so now I came in and I really didn't care much. Like I cared, but my care was stemming from a different place, and so I noticed that it made me better because I wasn't concerned about how somebody saw me. Or how they looked at me, or I didn't walk in the room to win the room. I'm on a mission to. It wasn't none of that, bro. It was like,
yeah, that's a good point.
Freedom.
We're here.
I'm trying to prove your power, prove your.
I'm trying to show I'm the coldest in the room.
Skills.
We're
talent.
here.
Yeah.
And the meekness allows me to believe in myself because myself is no longer myself.
We said something too when we were talking about that, how Jesus gives that parable about taking a seat in the back.
Yeah,
and let them tell you to come sit in the front.
Yeah, don't get the big room at the top. Don't go get the big room at the top. Don't try to get the big room. He said, get the low room, get the small room at the bottom, and then somebody put you.
Yeah, so that
we don't learn that though.
Yeah, having rest in your soul. Yeah, if you take a seat in the back and let somebody else push you up to the front, that the stress of coming in and trying to sit on the front row is a whole nother that's stress already. Because now you're trying to uphold something. You feel like I belong here, so I got to play this role and do this and that. And now if you somebody who okay with sitting in the back and they put you in the front, you don't got nothing to worry about.
Like you don't care.
Yeah, you're not trying to. When people say I need to take up space, when I show
whether
up,
I'm in the back,
you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, whether I'm in the back, whether I'm in the
that's
front,
rest. In your mind.
I learned that from Job. I've been reading about Job lately, bro, and it was like he was like, though he slay me, yet I will trust him. And you go read the story about Job, but it will teach you a lot about humility and a lot about how you complain about things that there's nothing close to what people really go through. Or what he really went through. But it's like, he said, though he slay me, yet Job rather, he said in the second time that he got boils. The first thing that Satan the Satan came, I'll explain that in another podcast. But the Satan, we call it Satan, comes and says, Job is only a good man because he got all that stuff. He said, but if he asked God, if you pull your hand back and take all this stuff away, he gonna curse you. or he not gonna be. So he said, all right, I'll put my hand back. He said, but you can't touch him. All his children die. He lose all his cattle, everything, right? So he's going through it, but his wife comes to him, curse God and die. He said, well, what's wrong with you? Like, you tripping? You know what I'm saying? So then Satan comes back again and says, well, he's still only being that good because you ain't let me touch him. But if you put your hand back and let me touch him, you know what I'm saying? He gonna curse you. God said, all right, you can touch him. And it's amazing that God says, all right, you can touch him. Which is, we don't think that. We have this fairy tale, Disney Channel gospel of God, and we don't think that God don't let nothing touch you. But he'll allow something to touch you so that you can be touched.
Yes.
You get it? So you really know. Yes, and you got to embrace that stuff, man. Jesus had to embrace death. And embrace the beating, and embrace the humiliation, and embrace the betrayal. He had to embrace that stuff.
Yeah.
So now Satan touches Job. Job gets balls, he gets sick. Boils all over his body, just gets sick. And, of course, the wife talking about then curse God and die. And Job said, though he slay me, yet I will trust him. And Job did this. Job cursed the day that he was born rather than curse God. You know what? I'll curse myself. But I will not. You get it? It's a total different level of meekness, humility, and knowing that if something comes my way, there's a plan in it all.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And God is he's doing something, man. You don't even know if you're strong until something comes up against you. We talk that noise all day long, but you don't know.
Yep.
You don't know till something come up.
It's all a test. Everything's a test.
It's all a test. Yeah. So now he says, I'm meek and lowly in heart. No, he's not occupied with self. Understand self, but it's not occupied with it. And I think that's where our rest becomes. And so, to me, that's the highest level of getting off the page.
Yeah.